Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we continue the heartfelt story of single mother Ly Hoai Ca and Officer Hùng, two resilient souls living in a rural village that has just survived a historic storm. The violent storm has passed, but what it left behind is devastating. Collapsed roofs, ruined fields, muddy village roads, and tears still lingering on the faces of the villagers. Yet amidst the wreckage, Hoai Ca and Hùng refused to give up. Together, they stood back up, joined hands with their neighbors to clean up the debris, repair each broken roof tile, and rebuild hope with their calloused hands and loving hearts. Day by day, the sound of hammers, laughter, and children's playful voices once again echoed through the countryside, a sign that life is returning. And just when everyone thought all that remained was hardship, Hung's close friend suddenly appeared, bringing with him a very special gift for Hoai Ca and Hùng. A gift not only of material value, but also of gratitude, faith, and humanity during the most difficult of days. What awaits them ahead? What is this mysterious gift, and why does it move the whole village to tears? Stay with me until the end of today's video to find out and to feel the strength, compassion, and love that helped them stand tall after the storm. The sky had turned clear again, and the gentle breeze carried with it the earthy scent after the rain, mingled with the fragrance of young rice in the fields, as if whispering softly, "After every storm, the earth still breathes and begins anew." Everywhere, villagers were still cleaning up, some shoveling mud, others rebuilding fences. Their voices calling out to one another echoed warmly through the small village. Though weary, there was joy in everyone's eyes, the quiet joy of those who were still here, still given the chance to start again. In front of their house, Hoai Ca and Hùng hung clothes to dry, patched up the torn canopy, and carefully replanted the vegetable rows that had been drowned by the flood. The tender sprouts, though fragile, reached toward the new sunlight just like them, resilient yet gentle in the face of life's hardships. Hùng glanced at Hoai Ca and smiled softly. "Every storm will pass. As long as we still have each other, we still have everything." Hoai Ca nodded, her hands still covered in mud, but her eyes clear as the morning sun. "Yes, I believe it. As long as there's warmth in our hearts, every home will shine again." From afar, Hung's old friend, slowly approached, holding a small, carefully wrapped box in his hands. He smiled kindly and said in a warm voice, "I have a little gift for you too. It's not much, but it's from me and the team. We hope it helps you get back on your feet soon." Hoai Ca froze for a moment, while Hùng gripped his friend's hand tightly. Beneath the vast blue sky, that small gift was more than a material token. It was a symbol of humanity, of compassion, and of hope rekindled in a countryside learning to heal after the storm. That morning, the sky was an unusually brilliant blue. The first rays of sunlight after the storm gently spilled over the garden, still streaked with patches of mud. Dewdrops clung to the banana leaves, glistening like tiny gems as they caught the light. A cool breeze drifted by, carrying the earthy scent of wet soil and the tender fragrance of young rice, a smell that only comes after endless days of rain. In the front yard, Hoai Ca bent down to gather the few remaining bundles of vegetables. Each delicate sprout, cleaned of mud and cradled carefully in her hands, seemed like a small fragment of hope sprouting anew. Her hair was slightly messy, dotted with droplets dripping from the tarp above, yet her smile was calm, peaceful in a way that only those who've endured storms can know. In the distance, Hùng was repairing the wooden beams on the roof. The rhythmic sound of his hammer mingled with the breeze, warm and familiar. Suddenly, the hum of a motorbike echoed along the winding dirt path outside the gate. The engine stopped, followed by a familiar voice, deep and warm, tinged with worry. "Ca, Are you alright? When I heard about the storm, I couldn't sit still. I was worried sick about you and little Tony. Hoai Ca looked up, her hands still holding the wet vegetables. She froze for a moment. Du was standing at the gate. The same rugged figure as before, an old shirt covered in dust, hair tousled by the wind. His sunburned face was tired, yet his eyes gleamed with relief at the sight of her safe and sound. She smiled gently, a little flustered. Brother Du, I'm fine, really. We were lucky. Hung reinforced the roof earlier, so it didn't take much damage. But the others in the village, many houses didn't make it. Du nodded, his eyes scanning the battered scene, overturned tiles, leaning poles, children scooping mud from doorways. He was silent for a moment, his voice low and heavy. I heard how badly the storm hit our village. Seeing this breaks my heart. Thinking about you and Tony, I couldn't just stay away. Then, he slowly reached into his shirt pocket and took out a small wad of bills wrapped carefully in a damp plastic bag. The edges were still wet. His hands trembled as he held it out to her. I don't have much to say. Please take this. Fix the roof, buy medicine, get some rice and fish sauce for the others. It's not a lot, but I want to help somehow. I can't do much, but at least I can share a little. Hoai Ca stood still, words caught in her throat, just as Hung stepped out from under the porch. The sunlight caught his face, highlighting the steadiness in his expression. His voice was calm, but resolute. Brother Du, we understand your kindness, truly. But we'll be okay. Everyone here's helping each other rebuild. You should keep that money for your own family. We can manage. Du was silent for a moment. The breeze stirred his shirt, and his gaze lingered on Hoai Ca before turning to Hung. His voice quivered slightly. I know the two of you have pride, and I respect that. But this isn't charity. It's from a father's heart, from someone who once made mistakes. I left this village long ago, left people behind when they needed me most. Seeing home destroyed, seeing you and Tony still holding on. I can't just watch. Please don't refuse me this. The air fell quiet. The rustling of bamboo leaves by the porch seemed to echo the weight of that silence. Hoai Ca looked down at the wet bundle of bills in her hands, heavy, as if carrying the remorse and redemption of a man seeking peace with his past. A tear slipped down her cheek, mingling with the droplets still clinging to the vegetables. She turned to Hung, their eyes meeting, filled not only with gratitude, but with deep understanding that needed no words. Finally, she nodded softly. Thank you, Brother Du. I'll accept it, but not for myself. I'll use it to buy rice, medicine, and help the families who lost everything. I'll just keep a little to fix the porch roof. Du said nothing, then smiled faintly, a quiet, gentle smile. His rough hands clenched, and his voice broke slightly. As long as you and everyone here are safe, that's all that matters. With that, he turned and walked away, his lonely figure fading behind the row of Erica palms at the end of the lane. The wind picked up again, carrying the scent of wet earth, young rice, and the unspoken warmth of compassion. Hoai Ca stood silently, her eyes red as she watched him go. Hung stepped closer, gently resting a hand on her shoulder. Sometimes, people just need to do good to make peace with their hearts. Accepting it, that's also giving them a way to heal. She nodded, smiling through her tears, but her heart felt light. Above them, the clouds slowly cleared, revealing a wide, blue sky. Birds began to sing again, and in the far fields, sunlight shimmered on the water's surface, as if the earth itself was embracing those who had survived the storm, teaching them once more how to love. Thanks to the money Du sent, life inside the little house slowly began to bloom again. Hoai Ca and Hung used most of it to buy new seeds and fertilizer, repair the fences, and pave the yard. Small tasks, perhaps, but to them, each one marked a new beginning. At dawn, As the sun rose over the mist-covered garden, the rhythmic sounds of shovels striking gravel echoed softly in the morning air. Hung bent down to fix the broken bamboo fence, while Hoai Ca knelt beside the soil, carefully sowing handfuls of seeds. Her small hands were covered in earth, but her eyes shone brightly, as warm and gentle as the sunrise. On the porch, Mother Ha tended the firewood stove. A thin wisp of blue smoke rose into the air, mingling with the aroma of freshly simmered vegetable soup, a homely scent, simple yet deeply comforting. Beside her, little Tony crawled around the yard, splashing water with his tiny hands. His laughter rang clear, mingling with the chirping of birds perched on the tiled roof. That small, humble scene, full of warmth and life, was enough to remind anyone that the world could still be beautiful, even after all the loss. Hoai Ca paused, wiping sweat from her forehead, her gaze softening as she watched her son's carefree laughter. Her voice trembled with tenderness. After the rain, every tree grows stronger, just like our little one, right, Mom? Mother Ha looked up from the pot, smiling kindly. Yes, my dear. Thanks to you too, this house has laughter again. Heaven may take things away, but it gives back to love, togetherness. That's enough. Hung, standing nearby, listened quietly with a faint smile. Wiping his sweat with his sleeve, he glanced around the now brightened home and murmured, "Seeing you two like this makes every hardship worth it." Hoai Ca turned to him, her mud-streaked face glowing with a gentle smile. "As long as we have each other, as long as we have family, that's happiness already." Hung nodded, gazing out toward the distant fields. The first green shoots had begun to rise from the muddy earth, shimmering under the golden light. Children's voices echoed faintly, roosters crowed in the distance, and the soft murmur of water flowed through the garden's narrow canal, all blending into a melody of life, of hope after the storm. A cool breeze drifted by, carrying with it the scent of soup, of soil, and of the human heart itself, that simple, steadfast fragrance of those who know how to stand tall and love deeply, no matter how many storms pass. That evening, after a long day of cleaning and replanting the garden, Hung suggested, "Mom, Ca, how about we go to the district market tonight? Let's buy Tony a lantern and some mooncakes. We can celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival a little early." Hoai Ca looked up, surprised for a moment before smiling softly. "It's been so long since I've heard anyone talk about buying lanterns. Tony's going to love it." As dusk settled, the three of them rode together along the narrow village road. Once silent after the storm, it now shimmered with light. On both sides, star-shaped lanterns, fish lanterns, and butterfly lanterns danced in the breeze. Children's laughter filled the air, blending with the distant sound of lion dance drums. The whole place seemed alive again, warm, bright, and bursting with the colors of joy. At the market, little Tony sat in Hung's lap, his round eyes sparkling as he looked around. Each time a lantern lit up, he squealed, "Daddy, look! It's so pretty! I want this one and that one too." Hoai Ca laughed, choosing a white rabbit lantern for him, while Mother Ha picked up a box of mung bean mooncakes, her favorite, because the simplest things are always the best. Hung carried the bags as the two women walked beside him, smiling and chatting amidst the cheerful crowd, a quiet happiness blooming after days of hardship. On the way home, the full moon hung round and bright above the now dry village road. Small puddles still glimmered, reflecting the moonlight like 1,000 tiny stars. The wind carried the faint scent of young rice, the sweetness of mooncakes, and the distant hum of crickets singing across the fields. Back at the house, Mother Ha carefully hung the lantern on the porch. Its red and gold glow spread softly across the old wooden walls, warm and comforting. Hoai Ca laid out the mooncakes and lit a few small candles. The room filled with a gentle light, moonlight, and candlelight blending together into something tender and sacred. Hung lifted Tony into his arms and pointed toward the bright sky. "Look, son, that's your full moon. It's even rounder this year, isn't it?" The little boy giggled, reaching his tiny hands toward the lantern's reflection. His laughter echoed through the yard, sweeping away the memory of all those rainy nights. Hoai Ca sat by the porch, watching the moonlight fall softly over her child's face. Her voice trembled with emotion. "Last year, we were still in that leaky old house. But now we have a roof, we have each other, and we have his laughter. That's happiness enough." Hung was silent for a moment before replying in a low, gentle tone. "Yeah. After the storm, maybe the most precious thing left is this, peace." The three of them gazed up at the moon together. Mother Ha, her silver hair glinting in the soft light, smiled tenderly. "Our family's made it through so much. That's a blessing, my dear. Anything we lose, we can rebuild. As long as we still love each other, we still have everything." The breeze stirred lightly, and the moonlight fell across their faces, 3 generations sitting side by side. Tony hugged his lantern tightly, calling out "Mom," "Dad" in his sweet little voice. The candlelight flickered in Hoai Ca and Hung's eyes, the reflection of faith, love, and quiet happiness after all the storms they had endured. From afar, the steady rhythm of lion dance drums echoed through the night. Inside that small countryside home, their first mid-autumn festival after the storm wasn't grand or dazzling, but it was warmer and more beautiful than any they had ever known. The whole family sat together on the porch, the golden full moon casting its light over the newly paved yard that still carried the scent of fresh earth. Hoai Ca leaned her head gently on Hung's shoulder, her eyes closed, as if wishing to hold on to this peaceful moment forever. Beside them, Mother Ha rocked softly back and forth, cradling Tony in her arms. The child slept soundly, his tiny face glowing softly under the tender moonlight. Outside, the distant sound of lion dance drums echoed faintly through the night, blending with the whisper of cool wind through the erica leaves and the gentle hum of crickets in the countryside. The whole world seemed to be breathing again, calm and light, after so many weary days. The camera slowly panned upward toward the sky, where the full moon shone brilliantly, its silver light spilling over the fields, the river, and the rooftops, illuminating the land that had just been reborn after the storm. That moonlight felt like a blessing, like the hand of heaven gently embracing every soul that had endured loss, yet still found the strength to smile, to love. A warm, deep narration filled the silence. After the storm, it's not just the earth that learns to live again, but the hearts of people too, learning to love and forgive a little more. Life may still bring waves and winds, but as long as we have family, as long as there is kindness, every hardship becomes lighter, because it's only through hardship that we realize true happiness is simply sitting together on a quiet moonlit night like this. The camera lingered on the image of the moonlight reflecting on the small house's roof, Tony smiling faintly in his sleep, while Hoai Ca and Hung held hands in silence, their warmth speaking louder than words. Then, soft white text appeared across the screen. Stay tuned for the next episode, where Hoai Ca, Hung, and Mother Ha join hands with their neighbors to rebuild the village school and bring laughter back to the children.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì hiện tại mình đang làm video cho tập của mẹ đơn thân Ly Hoai Ca và cảnh sát Hùng. Ở trong tập này thì mọi người cũng theo dõi rồi thì mọi người cũng có thể thấy là cơn bão đã đi qua, nhưng mà những sự tan nát cũng như đổ vỡ và nó gây nên rất là nhiều, thì Hùng và Hoài Ca cũng rất là may mắn được Đô là cha đẻ của Tony, là cũng là một người dành tình cảm rất là nhiều cho Hoài Ca giúp đỡ. Không biết là sau cơn bão này thì liệu Hoài Ca và Hùng với sự giúp đỡ của Đô với số tiền như vậy thì có thể vực dậy hay không. Nhưng mà hiện tại thì họ đã có một cuộc sống yên ấm và hạnh phúc hơn. Và liệu điều gì sẽ xảy ra tiếp theo trong quãng thời gian tới, và liệu Hùng, Hoài Ca cũng như là những nhân vật khác sẽ diễn biến câu chuyện như thế nào, thì mời mọi người đón xem ở phần sau nhé mọi người. Tạm biệt mọi người.